Iran-Israel conflict? This question takes us to the heart of the Middle East, where tensions between these two nations have created a rift that has reverberated across the globe. The Iran-Israel conflict, a complex and volatile issue, has been a constant in international politics for the better part of the last century. It's a conflict marked by deep-seated ideological differences, political power plays, and a history of hostility that dates back decades. This discord is not just about geographical borders or political alliances, it's about fundamental beliefs, cultural identities, and national security. It's an intricate web of factors that have shaped and continue to shape relations between Iran and Israel. Now, to understand the current situation, we must first delve into the past. Unraveling the threads of history, we find the roots of this conflict reaching far back. The curtain rises in the middle of the 20th century with the formation of the State of Israel in 1948. This event, seen as a beacon of hope for many Jewish people worldwide, also sparked tensions in the Middle East, setting the stage for the Iran-Israel conflict. Now, let's rewind a bit and delve into Iran's initial stance. Interestingly, Iran was one of the first Muslim-majority countries to acknowledge Israel's sovereignty. The two nations even enjoyed a period of amicable relations, sharing economic ties and strategic interests. This era, however, was ephemeral. The winds of change began to blow in the late 1970s. A seismic event in Iran's political landscape, the Iranian Revolution of 1979, would dramatically alter the course of Iran-Israel relations. The revolution, which overthrew the pro-West Shah and ushered in an Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini, marked a significant ideological shift. The new regime viewed Israel not as a legitimate state, but as an illegitimate entity imposed by Western powers. This shift was not just about political rhetoric, it had tangible repercussions. Diplomatic relations were severed, and Iran's recognition of Israel was withdrawn. The new Iranian leadership's anti-Israel stance was not just limited to words. Iran began to lend support to anti-Israel militant groups, further escalating the tensions. It's important to note that this conflict is not just about clashing political ideologies. It's also about geopolitical power struggles, religious differences, and the broader Arab-Israeli conflict. These elements have intertwined over the decades, creating a complex and volatile mix. The revolution of 1979 marked a significant turning point in Iran-Israel relations. Post-1979, the landscape of Middle Eastern politics experienced a dramatic shift. This period marked the occurrence of the Iranian Revolution, an event that drastically altered the dynamics between Iran and Israel. The Iranian Revolution, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, was a pivotal moment in Iran's history. It resulted in the overthrow of the Pahlavi dynasty and the establishment of the Islamic Republic. This new regime was fundamentally different from the previous one. It was driven by a zealous religious ideology that was vehemently opposed to the existence of Israel. This ideological opposition to Israel was rooted in the belief that the establishment of Israel had led to the displacement and suffering of millions of Palestinians. Iran, viewing itself as a defender of the oppressed, felt a moral obligation to challenge what they perceived as Israeli aggression. Thus, the Iranian Revolution marked the beginning of a hostile relationship between Iran and Israel, a hostility that continues to this day. The impact of this shift in power was not limited to Iran and Israel alone. It reverberated throughout the Middle East, affecting regional dynamics profoundly. Iran's new ideology and its opposition to Israel found resonance with several non-state actors in the region. Groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine found a powerful ally in Iran, which helped them in their struggle against Israel. This shift in power also led to the formation of new alliances. Many Arab states who had previously been at odds with Israel found themselves sharing common ground with their former adversary. The mutual concern over Iran's increasing influence led to a gradual thawing of relations between these Arab states and Israel. Nevertheless, Iran's ideological opposition to Israel did not translate into direct military confrontation. Instead, it manifested itself through various forms of proxy warfare, including financial support to anti-Israel groups and cyber attacks on Israeli infrastructure. This ideological shift in Iran laid the groundwork for the enduring conflict we see today. This conflict, rooted in deep-seated ideological differences and amplified by regional dynamics, continues to shape the trajectory of the Middle East. Fast forward to the present, the conflict has evolved, with new dimensions adding to its complexity. As we delve into the current landscape, Iran's nuclear program becomes a central point of contention. What started as a program for peaceful energy generation has been perceived by Israel as a looming threat to its security. The international community, too, has raised eyebrows over Iran's uranium enrichment activities, fearing a potential shift towards weaponization. This has led to a series of sanctions and diplomatic standoffs, further straining the relationship between Iran and Israel. Moving forward, we must also look at the rise of proxy wars. These have become a distinct feature of the Iran-Israel conflict. Iran has been accused of supporting militant groups in the region, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine. These groups have been at the forefront of conflicts with Israel, making the situation increasingly volatile. Israel, on the other hand, has been taking measures to counteract these influences, leading to a cycle of violence that exacerbates the conflict. Lastly, let's talk about a relatively new form of warfare, one that doesn't involve soldiers or traditional weaponry, but is just as destructive: cyber warfare. Both Iran and Israel have become adept at using the digital realm to advance their agendas. Cyber attacks have been launched by both sides, targeting critical infrastructure and spreading disinformation. This new battleground has added yet another layer of complexity to the conflict, making it more challenging to navigate and resolve. These recent developments have further intensified the conflict and its potential repercussions on the region and beyond. The question now is, what does the future hold for the Iran-Israel conflict? As we delve into the future prospects, we are met with three main scenarios: escalation, de-escalation, and continued stalemate. Firstly, the escalation scenario. This is a world where tensions between Iran and Israel rise to a boiling point. The conflict could spiral out of control, leading to a full-blown war. This could be triggered by a variety of factors, such as a significant attack on either side or a breakdown in diplomatic channels. On the other hand, we have the de-escalation scenario. This is a world where both nations decide to put down their arms and engage in meaningful dialogue. It's a world where diplomacy trumps hostility and peace agreements replace threats of war. This could be facilitated by international pressure, shifts in leadership, or a realization that the cost of conflict is too high. Lastly, there's the scenario of continued stalemate. In this scenario, the conflict continues to simmer without boiling over. Occasional flare-ups occur, but they're quickly contained. This could be maintained by a balance of power where neither side is willing or able to gain a decisive advantage. Each of these scenarios has its own set of implications, and the path that the conflict will take is influenced by a complex interplay of factors. These include the geopolitical landscape, domestic politics in both Iran and Israel, and the actions of other key players in the region. It's also worth noting that these scenarios are not mutually exclusive. The conflict could oscillate between periods of escalation and de-escalation, with periods of stalemate in between. It's a chess game on a global scale, with moves and counter-moves, strategies and counter-strategies. The stakes are high and the implications are far-reaching. In the end, it's a conflict with no easy solutions. It's shaped by history and fueled by deep-seated animosities. It's a conflict that has the potential to reshape the Middle East and, by extension, the world. Only time will tell how this intricate conflict will unfold. The Iran-Israel conflict, a complex tapestry woven with threads of history, ideology, and power. We've journeyed through the intricate labyrinth of this enduring conflict, delving into its historical roots, exploring the shifts in power and emergence of hostility, and examining the recent developments and potential future scenarios. It's clear that the dynamics between these two nations are not simply black and white. They are deeply rooted in the past, influenced by geopolitical interests, and continuously evolving. This conflict is not just about Iran and Israel, it's about the balance of power in the Middle East, the role of international players, and the quest for security and sovereignty. It's a narrative of nations, each with their own stories, ambitions, and fears, woven into a complex geopolitical tapestry. As we continue to observe this conflict, it is essential to understand its historical context and the evolving dynamics at play. Remember, history is not just about the past, it's also about understanding the present and anticipating the future. And in this intricate dance of politics and power, every move matters.